Hi, and welcome to the show. Subscribe at kevinmd.com/podcast. Today, we welcome back Tammie Chang. She's a pediatric hematology oncology physician and co-founder of Pink Coat MD. Today's Kevin MD article is Unhooking from the Ego in Medicine. Tammie, as we've been talking about offline, it's been many years since we last spoke.
I know. It's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
All right, so tell us about your latest article, Unhooking from the Ego in Medicine. Why did you decide to write it and share it on Kevin MD?
Oh, well, I was so glad and so privileged to get to share it with you and your readers. And to me, it's like our your readers and our readers, right? Our colleagues, they're our friends and our peers. And so I disappeared for about 3 years, which is why I haven't been on your podcast or been doing much speaking or writing or anything, because I actually had a very hard time. And so like part of my story from before was, I've been doing this. I've been in the wellness officer role for several years, but before that, what got me into this whole space in the mental health space was having severe burnout, depression, suicidal, and really ultimately becoming a big advocate for well-being, burnout in healthcare, how to make changes, reducing and removing the stigma from mental health for us in medicine, because I mean, it's pervasive, right? It's the reality of the
Mm,
work we do. So that became really my passion and my why for a very long time. And yet, even in the spite of all that, and I learned so many skills, became a coach, I actually had a really hard time the last 3 years and was again burned out, suicidal, severely depressed. That's why I disappeared. So it's interesting how even when we're doing this work that's so deeply passion driven and purpose driven and also fun, like you and I were talking about, this can be really fun. We both love this kind of work. It still can burn us out too if we bring a certain level of something to it, right? We bring ourselves into whatever we do. And that level of, I think, intensity, drive, like we're all so driven as physicians, and we all get it. We're so striving, we're so high achieving, we're so exceptional, we're really talented, we can do a lot of things, and yet we can really hurt ourselves in
mm.
the process too. And so that was why I wrote this story, this essay when I did.
So you were a chief wellness officer and a coach. You talked about burnout, but you burnt out yourself.
Yeah.
And then you had that period for 3 years. Tell us what you learned during that time away.
Yeah, and that's really what I wrote about in that just this brief reflective essay. And it's really about figuring out who we are and who we really are,
Mhm.
separate from all the identities that we put on ourselves in work, in life, especially for us as physicians. I think we're so, I mean, at least for me, I won't speak for everyone else, but I mean, so achievement driven.
Mhm.
I mean, since I was like 3 years old, I've been achieving since age three, right? Like Asian family, immigrant parents, all of it. And so, bringing that intensity to even that kind of work, it really became who I was
Mhm.
and what my identity was. And when things were not going well, which is inevitable in any kind of work, especially that kind of work, it then meant I was not okay. And so it really became a period of, I think I had two more breakdowns essentially, and I'm sharing this very openly with people around because I think it's important for us. It's not like once we've had this big awakening
Mhm.
and we're doing better that like we got it, we're like good forever. Actually, we're still learning and being humbled by life every single day and every year. And so what I learned honestly was how to unhook from myself in a way, from all the things that I thought I needed to be or that were honestly driven by my ego.
So you mentioned that you had to essentially unhook yourself from a particular identity that you were so familiar with for who knows how long. How difficult was that for you? What was that process like?
I mean, I think it actually took having complete breakdowns. I mean, that's how dramatic that's what I had to go through. And I honestly, it's why I wrote this because I know other people are struggling in similar ways. And I don't want anyone to have to go through a complete breakdown to find peace. Like it is not, we don't have to like completely get to the point of where we think we're gonna hurt ourselves again, because that's where I got, and I had to take a leave of absence again even though I had all these skills, right? I don't want that for anyone. I don't want anyone to feel they have to get to that point ever to find the joy and the peace that I have a freedom now that I've never had in my life.
Mm.
And I want that. I want others to be able to glimpse that or to know it's possible out there.
So, without getting into too much detail, you had the skills to deal with burnout. You coached it, you talked about it, you were a chief wellness officer. In your particular situation, why didn't those skills work?
Yeah, because honestly, I've actually been learning a lot about the neuroscience and the neuropsychology of how we experience life as human beings, not just physicians. And I think it's so clear that, and especially in the Western world, but especially in medicine, live on the left side of our brains,
Hmm.
which is all about strategy, achievement, ego, fear, anxiety, production, like productivity, striving. All it's actually we live in that. And it's almost like that left side of our brain is so hypertrophied. We don't tap into this right side.
Yeah.
And that's actually where the right side is the only part of our brain that helps us understand that we are interconnected as human beings. It actually has no sense of self or ego. And I wrote about that in the article because this has been transformational for me, learning that our ego and sense of me, like Tammie Chang, whatever, you know, that's only limited to the left side of our brain. And if we can intentionally strengthen and tap into that right side, it's actually where we can find peace. And this is based on the work of Jill Bolte Taylor. Maybe some of your listeners have heard of her. She was super famous. She did the very first ever viral TED Talk in 2008.
Hmm.
So she was a Harvard neuroscientist who had a full left-sided stroke when she
Yeah.
was 37, maybe familiar to you. I mean, it rings a bell, but my stroke of insight.
Yeah.
She's become a dear friend and mentor. And I feel like it's the universe that brought her into my life and Louisa from Pink Coat, our lives, because that actually, her work has been what has transformed my experience of the world, and it's something that I openly want to share with everyone else because it is true. Peace is really, truly just a thought away, and we can access that at any moment in time.
So tell us some of the things that you did to proverbially access that right side of your brain. What were some things that you did?
Yeah, I mean, I think we hear so much about meditation, mindfulness, all the prayer practices, our spiritual connection, that's all the right frontal cortex. And so that actually was my transformation, was really leaning into it felt natural, like it felt right, but I didn't understand the science behind it. And I think
Hmm.
what's so powerful about the neuroscience work is that it's whole brain living work is what Jill Bolte Taylor calls it now. It's like we can access that quadrant of our brain at any moment by intentionally strengthening that. So just like monks who meditate every single day, when you look at, I mean, there's all these studies done. Like
Yeah.
if you look at their MRIs, right? They've done functional MRIs of monks, like their brains are lit up all over, but it's especially strong over here.
Hmm.
Whereas if you look at like us in the Western world working like dogs right over here, like
Yeah.
we're just all on the left side. So I literally intentionally practice that every single day, every morning. And that really became, and it still is a routine of mine today.
So tell us about that routine. So every morning you would meditate,
Mhm.
reflect. Tell us what's that like?
Yeah, it's actually the first thing I do when I get up now every morning. I get up really early, by five, definitely by 6 a.m., just so it's quiet. There's nothing else going on. I don't have
Hmm.
to work yet. And I go into a special room that I've really made for my space and I meditate. I definitely do guided ones. I'm not advanced enough to do it by myself. And I actually find it really peaceful and it's a nice routine. It's the same, I do the same few meditations. And it's only for maybe 5, 10 minutes sometimes if I'm short on time. And then I'll do some breathing exercises that I do. And then if I have time, I'll do a little journaling. And I do literally do the 5 minute journal. So it's super easy.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't even take 5 minutes. If anyone has ever heard of the 5 minute journal, it's by Intelligent Change. It's like $30 on Amazon. And it literally is like, what are the three things I'm grateful for today? What are the three things that would make today great?
Hmm.
And then the next line is, my intention for today is X. And it literally takes me like 2 minutes to fill that
Yeah.
out.
Sure.
And then at night, I do the same routine going to bed, and it's stopping and slowing down and reflecting on what are the three things I learned
Hmm.
today, and what were the highlights of today. And it just helps ground us in the space of not always go, 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 achieve, 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 go, 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 go. You have recently had a dear friend of mine, Dr. Roxanne Almus, on your
Yes.
podcast. She's
Yes.
a good friend. We've been friends since residency.
Mm.
We're in Pink Coat together. I love her work. I
Yeah.
think that is also what we need so much of too.
Now, how much was it in terms of a change in your professional life, the change in your job? Did it make that huge difference in terms of where you were and where you are now?
In terms of this whole unhooking thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. It I actually think it was this process of unhooking, which has really been over the last 3 years
yeah.
for me, that has allowed me to, like, I'm stepping down from the wellness officer role this month, and I'm able to let go
Hmm.
because I know it's not for me. And I'm actually going back to part-time. I'll be a pediatric nocturnist actually,
Oh, nice.
because I really enjoy it. It's
Yeah.
fun. And then I have all this time and energy to devote to things that to bring me joy in a very different free way. And I think had I honestly, I don't think I would have known how to step down from a big leadership role. They were actually talking about expanding the role.
Yeah.
And here I am choosing to go, yeah, I don't, that's not for me. It's just not for me. It's definitely for someone else. But I think it's just knowing myself more than anything else, who I really am, and I wrote about it in the article. I just, when all that stuff stripped away, I was back to going like, who was I without all that?
Yeah.
And who was I when I was a kid?
Yeah.
I kept coming back to when I was like 18 years old, going into college and med school. Like, I don't know, I think you have kids, I remember.
Hmm.
And like they're so young and full of hope and so bright. And it made me think about who was that in me. And that's how I feel about other people. It's like, who were you before life and medicine and work really sometimes broke your spirit?
Yeah.
And so I went back to that for myself and came to realize, wow, yeah, I don't want big titles and I don't need a lot of money. Like that's not what's important to me in this life. And so it really shifted my whole life perspective. And I'm so grateful for that.
Is that identity that I think is so critical? I've talked to so many other physicians about
Yeah.
what their identity should be, how to choose their identity, whether the identity is imposed on them, right? And
Yeah.
that's really one of the keys, I think, in terms of breaking out of those doldrums of burnout. For those other physicians who are listening, maybe in a similar position to where you were, tell us of just some pieces of advice that you could share with them. Perhaps they feel stuck. Perhaps they feel constrained by a certain identity that they're not happy with. Where can they even start? Well, what are some things they can do?
I think of it too. I saw another article coming out from you on like, don't call medicine a calling,
Hmm.
right? Because I think so much about how do we all not only survive but thrive
Hmm.
in the midst of all the craziness and the reality of healthcare in this country, the way it's evolving rapidly. We're all part of corporate medicine, the vast majority of us now, which means they have very little autonomy. I also think a lot about all of the difficulties in the world and our society right now, on top of as so we're like a microcosm
Yeah.
of the macro. And so it's like ultimately what I want for each of us, because this is a hard time in our world, and I don't think it's going to get better very
Hmm.
quickly. We have to figure out how to be okay. And so it's like, what can you control? What can I control? What is within your control today, right now, to be okay, no matter where you are, no matter where you're working, no matter what your work situation or family situation is, you have that capacity within you. You just have to slow down and be quiet, because that's the only way we can actually even get in touch with that part of ourselves. It's to start there and realize that we are so much more than our job, our title, our
Hmm.
being a physician, even being a parent, a wife, all the things. Like I look at all these identities and I go, you know what? Who are you without all that? Because you still are incredibly valuable
Hmm.
and a beautiful human being without any of it. And so just remembering that that inherent goodness is in every single one of us. And we have that capacity. Every single one of us does. I know we do as human beings to be okay.
Sometimes I find that mindset is a little bit incongruent with current medical culture, right? When you decided to step down and not take that expanded chief wellness officer role and go part-time, what were some of the reactions of some of your immediate colleagues? Did they understand why you were doing what you were doing?
I've been surprised because why I'm doing it, and I share this very openly, I tell everyone, yes, this work is so important to me. And me stepping down allows me to do the things I truly feel called to do out in the world, whatever that is. And to me, that's what I have to do right now. And when I frame it that way, people go, oh, okay, okay. And I think I've also had people say, wow, that's unusual. Someone wants to promote you, and you're like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
You know? And that's unusual. I think of myself even 5 years ago, I would have taken that job. Even
Yeah.
3 years ago, I would have leapt at it because that's what thought I wanted and what was right for me. But I know now so well that that's not right for me.
We're talking to Tammie Chang. She is a pediatric hematology oncology physician and co-founder of Pink Coat MD. Today's Kevin MD article is Unhooking from the Ego in Medicine. Tammie will end with some take-home messages they want to leave with the Kevin MD audience.
Oh, I think I said the same take-home message in the past. It's like trust in yourself,
Mm.
in who you really are. You're going to be okay. You can be okay no matter what.
Tammie, as always, thank you so much for sharing your story, time, and insight. And thanks again for coming back on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Kevin. Thank you for everything you do.